Hi, I'm Paul, this is Dan. Just wanted to talk to you a little bit today about Bikejorring, some of the equipment that you would need, some of the things that you should take with you to make sure that you and your dog are safe out there on the trails. We've been doing this for a little over 2 years now, and just a disclaimer up front that we are completely self-taught. We looked around online for videos to try to see what we could find, what we could do to learn about the sport, and there's really not a whole lot out there right now. Which led us to the idea of kind of wanting to share our knowledge with you of what we've learned over time, what we take with us, how we get the dogs ready, how we hook them up to the bikes, the scooters and the carts, and then some video of out there having a good time.
Come on, girl. Come on. Come back. All right, go.
So first, Dan, why don't you talk to us a little bit about, why somebody might want a Dryland mush and what got you into it initially, and really what the benefit is for you and the dog.
Basically, what happened for us is, like most of you, we got a dog, and my dog had a ton of energy, right? I had to find a way to exercise my dog as much as possible. We discovered dog parks at the beginning. Dog parks were amazing. We had fun. It was a good time. We got a lot of energy out. But as my dog went from 6 months to a year, her energy level was at the point where I would almost have to live at a dog park, right? It would have been my second home. So what I ended up doing is, I had a husky, and I knew that huskies were sled dogs. So I started looking into how can I do this sledding or mushing with my dog. And here in Klamath Falls, 99% of the time it's hot, it's or dry, right? There's barely any snow. So we looked into alternative ways to exercise my dog, and that's what led us into Dryland mushing. And basically, I found a person that did some Dryland mushing or mushing in Klamath Falls, and I did a weekend-long camp with her. She introduced me to the cart, which we'll show you guys later. But she kind of showed me that you don't have to have snow. It doesn't have to be seasonal. We can do this year round. And what I discovered was my dog loved it. So that's why we got into it. I started really getting into YouTube and seeing what was out there, which is kind of what brought us to making this video. Like Paul said, we found a lot of pieces of Dryland mushing around, but there's not a comprehensive guide for beginners. Right? There's not a good place to start where we can show you the very basics that you need to get started. And that's kind of what led us to this here and us to Dryland mushing. The reason somebody would want to Dryland mushing, or to Dryland mush, I would say there's a lot of good reasons. First and foremost, it's excellent exercise for your dog. Second, it's excellent exercise for you. Even if you have an awesome team that can do 99% of the work, you're still gonna have to get outside. You're gonna have to do some things with your dogs. It's a great way to build a relationship with your dog and to spend time outdoors, doing something fun, and just growing that relationship with your dog. That would be, I think, the greatest advantage to Dryland mushing.
The easiest vehicle to go Bikejorring on is obviously a bike. Really, any bike will work. The really key that you need to pay attention to with your bike is making sure that you're comfortable on it. Before you hook your dog on it and you get out on the road or the sidewalk, or you get into traffic, or maybe you're out on a trail and you're going down a trail, if you're not comfortable on the bike and your bike handling capabilities, it's just going to be exponentially compounded, the issues you're going to run into once you have your dog hooked up. So first and foremost, if it's a bike you've been on for years, great, you're probably comfortable riding it. If you are getting a new bike, specifically for Bikejorring, recommend you spend a little time on your own getting comfortable on the bike and out there. Definitely get several miles under your belt. Another big thing to pay attention to is brakes. Depending on what the dog sees and how well the dog's behaved, there are definitely going to be instances where you're going to have to stop that dog and you need to stop the direction that you're traveling in. So having good brakes is a big thing. If you do have disc brakes on your bike, excellent. If you are looking at a new bike for a Bikejorring, I would highly recommend disc brakes. You have a lot more stopping power than you do using rim brakes. Another key component of any vehicle you use is some way to attach the dog's line to your bike. There are methods where some people will just kind of wrap it around the frame and that's okay. If you got a place to wrap it around the frame, definitely never wrap it around the handlebars, never wrap it around the stem. You don't want the dog to be able to control where you're able to steer. You want the dog to purely do pulling power, no directional power, so focus on the frame. Or a really good option out there as far as equipment goes is an antenna like this. So an antenna is a really good addition to the bike. It does a couple things for you. One, it provides some spring action here, so the dog can go back and forth a little bit, and you're not immediately feeling all of that right here on the front of the bike. The bigger thing that it does, and the biggest benefit, is that it allows you to route the line through the end of the antenna, so there's no way the line droops down and gets caught in the front tire. This is a big safety issue, both for you and your ability to maintain control of the bike, as well as the dog. You don't want the line to get caught up in the front tire and that to pull the dog back and then, forbid you run over the dog. So an antenna is a really good option. We'll put a link down below to the manufacturer of the antennas that we use, but there are a lot of options out there on the market. A couple considerations as far as safety for you might be gloves or a helmet, depending on where you're going riding and what kind of technical or how technical the trail is going to be. Some safety considerations for you.
Another great option for Dryland mushing is a scooter. With the bike, we have Bikejorring. With the scooter, they just call it scooter joring. It's basically the exact same thing, we just have a different vehicle. There's pros and cons to the scooter. One of the big pros is we get to stand, right? We get to stay off of a seat, we get to be active on our legs, and we get to help our dogs by kicking, mimicking the same concept we would do if we were on a sled. Another advantage is I'm 3 to 4 inches off the ground, so if I need to get off the scooter and just bail and let the scooter go, I just step off and let go, right? So that's an advantage. A disadvantage is it's slightly lighter, right? It's an advantage for your dogs, but it's a little harder to control your dogs when they're super active and pulling. If you make the mistake when your dogs are running and they take a critter hunt and you decide to step off, is the back end will start to come up, right? And you could hit yourself. But as long as you stay on there, you're going slow, you and your dog are working together, going at a reasonable pace, it's pretty safe. Just like the bike, we would highly recommend hydraulic brakes, or sorry, disc brakes. They don't have to be hydraulic. Hydraulic brakes are great, but any disc brake is great. Other thing to look for are larger tires. You don't want a racer scooter, right? Those little tiny plastic tires are gonna hit one rock and you're both gonna fall down. It's gonna be super bad. But you get larger tires, some nice brakes, an antenna, just like before. That way our dog's lines stay out of the tire. You can have a good time on this one too. Scooter joring's so much fun. Okay, so a cart or a rig. This is an awesome option if you have several dogs. One thing to really look at is if you have your bike or a scooter, they're excellent with one dog. They're super fun with 2 dogs. When we get to 3 dogs, it starts getting kind of crazy. Depends on the ability of your dogs to listen to you. When we get to 4 dogs, it really gets gnarly. After 4 dogs, I wouldn't recommend it. It's super okay if you're a highly experienced musher, but that's a lot of dogs on a bike or a scooter. That's what brings us to the cart or the rig, right? It's called both things. When we start getting into units like this, there's tons of different options out there. This is just one example. These are great when we're looking at 4 or more dogs. The cart's a little heavier, it has more resistance rolling on the ground. One major advantage to a cart is we can start putting things on here, like I have this bucket, right? The bucket didn't come with it, I just screwed it down to the deck. You can start storing your water, I store water bowls in there, I store extra lines, super awesome. Another advantage is when I'm standing on the cart, again, I'm only 2-3 inches off the ground. Because of the width of the cart and the way it's designed, if I have 5 or 6 dogs go one way or the other, the cart's not gonna tip over, it's not gonna fall. You're pretty stable, you're pretty safe. On the cart, you're gonna have brakes. This particular cart has, I believe they call them compression brakes. All it is, I stomp here and it presses these pads into the tire. Some of the newer, more modern carts will have disc brakes. They're awesome, right? Every one of these carts are great. But the reason we want to look at the cart is if you start expanding your team, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, we start getting into these higher numbers, you're going to want a bigger unit for safety, and it's just so much fun. One of the disadvantages to the cart, besides being slightly heavier, it's much harder to help your dog when you need to, right? You're on a platform. If we get to a big hill and your dogs are struggling, you might have to get off, you might have to push, you might have to run, but you know, that's part of the joy of doing this with your dog as a team. So really, that's the only disadvantage. If you have less than 4 dogs, some of these carts are just too heavy. So I would stick with the bike or the scooter, but as soon as your team starts getting bigger or you start combining teams together, this is the way to go.
All right, so now we'll talk a little bit about the lines. The lines are what connect your vehicle, your bike or scooter or cart, to the harness that the dog's wearing. A couple different options here for lines depending on what configuration you're running and what you want to do. The most basic would just be a 1-dog line. So it's just a single line. It's got a hook at both ends, one hook that hooks to the bike and one hook that hooks to the dog's harness. One of the nice things about good Bikejorring lines is this little bit of elastic here. So what this elastic does is it takes some of that jarring off of the dog and you when they start pulling. It gives you just a little bit of room for the dog to start pulling and for you to start catching up before the line goes tight and really jerks you around on the vehicle. If you're running 2 dogs, then really the easiest way to do it is just 2 1-dog lines. Clip them both to the bike, and then you got 2 separate lines to clip to the dog. Other options for multiple dogs would be something like this. This has 1 line that clips to the bike, and then you have 3 separate lines that come out. Oh, get this right. You have 1 line here that clips to the bike that has your elastic piece in it, and then this actually wides out into 3 separate lines that you can hook up to your dog. So this way you only have 1 line to worry about in front of your bike, and each dog still has their own dedicated line hooked up to their harness.
As soon as we start moving into the bigger teams, we're not gonna want a single line that hooks up 7, 8, 12 dogs. It gets too many, right? So we end up buddying our dogs together. So we're running in pairs of 2, right? Just like Paul said at the beginning, we have something that pulls the, removes the jarring from the dogs, right? This is a steel cable connected with 2 carabiners with a bungee in the middle, right? Just gives it that little bit of release so it's not so hard on the dog's shoulders. Now, the lines. Basically what we have is a series of, as soon as I untangle this, a series of these lines, right? So what we have here is the main line right here, the green part. It's the center line that connects all the way down the team. Then my 2 black lines, the long one is called your tug line. This is the one that will hook into the back of your dog's harness, right? So we got 2 of those, so 2 dogs can run side by side. And then the front ones up here, these are called the neck lines. They connect to the dog's collar, right? Then the advantage to this type of line is if a line comes undone or something breaks, you either have the dog tied up in the back and the front. So if their collar falls off, they're still tied up in the back. If the harness breaks or comes loose, you still have them tied up. Now, what happens is you've got a loop on one end, right? This is the back end, and you have a loop on the front end, right? When we start hooking these together, we start getting longer and longer lines. So I'll show you here. We have that same concept. The loop in the back, the 2 tug lines, the main line's green. It continues all the way up to a neckline. This particular setup, I have 2 leader lines, right? So the leader lines are connected identical to this one. And these would go out to the 2 dogs' harnesses. And then it's super common to run a single neckline on both dogs' collars. So every dog from the leader all the way to the wheel dogs have multiple lines. They have both their neck and their harnesses connected. The advantage to this line, right, because you can see I have 2 dogs here. It would be between here and here. I have 2 dogs connected here, is we can grab another line, right? Any one of these segments. I got to get it to the neckline. All I have to do here is run this line through the hole, and then I pull all the rest of it through. So we started with a 4-dog line. Once I pull all of this through, I pull it tight. Now I'm set up to run 6 dogs because I've added 2 more dogs, right? And you can buy these sections, 2-dog sections. You just keep adding them till you go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 16. Some people run 18, 20. I mean, that's a lot of dogs, but you can just keep adding these.
Right, so now let's talk a little bit about harnesses. Far and away, the most popular harness for Bikejorring is going to be an X-back harness. Called an X-back because you can see how these straps cross over themselves in the shape of an X along the dog's spine. The big benefits to these harnesses is really the way that it fits the dog comfortably. Their neck goes through this hole. It puts all the pulling tension right here, kind of around their shoulders, and then on the sternum. So this piece right here is going to fit right on their sternum. The neck goes through here, and the harness kind of stretches out like this. Another nice thing is while they're pulling with all the power of their sternum, the actual line is going to be hooked up all the way down here by the base of the dog's tail. So this little loop here, we'll show you later once we put it on a dog, is where the line to the bike hooks up. So they're pulling from back there, is where the line hooked up, but the pulling pressure is up on their sternum. And it really is the best overall, most comfortable fit for the dog, gives them the most pulling power with the most amount of comfort. Another option that a lot of these X-back harnesses are going to come with is a belly band right here. The point of this is that it kind of connects around underneath the dog's belly, holds the two sides of the back of the harness together, and prevents them from being able to pull out of it. If you got a dog who might spook by something or might back out of the harness and then they're free, helps hold the harness on them and keep it in the right position while they're running. A lot of the companies out there that makes the X-back harnesses make them in like a ready-to-ship, pre-sized version. You can see Dan has quite the collection here from one of the popular vendors that we'll link below. But they come in a multitude of different sizes. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, probably 7 or 8 different sizes right here, all by this one manufacturer. And all of these manufacturers are going to have instructions on their website, how to measure the dog, where to take the measurements. Most commonly it's the measurements of the circumference of the neck, and then you go from the neck to like the back of the hip, and then from the hip to the base of the tail. And using those measurements you can find which one of those sizes will fit your dog best. If your dog has an awkward shape, we run an Australian Shepherd. She's really wide, wider than your average Bikejorring dog, and the pre-size harnesses didn't fit her quite right. So we were able to order a custom harness for her. And so this one, you take the measurement, take it multiple times, just like in woodworking, measure 15 times and then order once. They can be a little pricey. These run, I think these are right about $40 to $50 a piece. So you don't want to wait 8 weeks to have one made and shipped just to find out it's the wrong size. So make sure you get good measurements. When this shows up in the mail, it fits the dog perfectly. As long as she doesn't grow anymore, we get a really good fit there. Another option for a harness, this is really more of a canicross or a running harness, but it can work for Bikejorring depending on how much your dog pulls. Some dogs really prefer just to run alongside of you, and really you just want to make sure that they're comfortable and attached to the bike if they're not pulling that hard. This just one goes around the neck and around the waist, and they kind of pull from the middle of their back. So this is another option. This style harness could work for you and your dog depending on your situation.
So the big difference we're gonna find between custom and our ready-to-ships is gonna be the price, right? The customs are amazing when you work with an awesome company like Alpine Outfitters or one of the others. They're there to help you. They're there to answer some questions. They have awesome customer service. We're not paid by them. We just really appreciate them. That's a great way to get a harness that you're gonna be confident it's gonna fit your dog perfectly. The advantage to the ready-to-ships, right, are they're cheaper, right? These harnesses run about $25. If you have a dog that moves its weight up and down, maybe it has a winter coat and a summer coat, you might find where this is a nice option because you can have multiples, and then as you put it on your dog, you can be, oh shoot, this is too small today, or this is too small or too big. The other advantage is there are companies like Nonstop Dogwear. They sell a harness that actually has adjustable straps. Also a good option. It's significantly more money than all of these, but again, they're a world-class company with world-class customer service. The adjustable straps, which we don't have shown here, they're a great option if your dog needs to move in and out, however. So, hooking up our dogs with the harness. As you can see, the harness has a ton of holes and crazy things going on. They're kind of intimidating at first. So, first and foremost, I'll tell you, this is my amazing young lady named Koi. She's gonna be our model today. The easiest way to hold your dog is to pinch their hips. I'm not squeezing, I'm just holding her here because sometimes they wanna run around. They get excited, they're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Now, the harness. Easiest thing to do is I take this sternum plate, I'm gonna fold it in half. When you fold it in half, you'll notice that there becomes a hole in the middle, right? What I want to do is I want to fold it in half, and I want to get the neck part sticking out, and the dog's head is going to go between these two holes right here. I just slide it right over top, okay? Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it upside down, or the other way around. It's upside down right now, so I twist it, right? All I want to do now is pull out the slack, and I want to make sure her collar's free, okay? So I just lightly take my hands around, pull that up. Next thing I'm going to do, because she's a long-haired husky, I'm going to grab the collar, I'm going to grab her fur. This doesn't hurt her. I'm just pulling the harness down so it's off of her fur. I do the same thing on her chest. I pull it nice and down. Now you'll notice there's two straps, one on each side. They're down by the feet. All I'm going to do is reach through the hole, pull her leg up, and it's through. Second one, reach down, pull her leg up, I'm here. So now I get behind her. All I'm going to do is pull it backwards, right? What I'm looking for, right, is I don't want a bunch of twists and all kinds of messed up things. Just to make sure everything's fine, everything's loose. You'll notice we're sitting nice on her chest. We're sitting over both her shoulders. The line doesn't touch her armpit, right? That's a key part here. I don't want to be rubbing on her armpit when she's running. Imagine if you were running with a nylon thing on and you were rubbing it in your armpit. That would suck, right? I want to make sure that's free. So this line is free coming through. The back of her line is nice and tight, really close to the base of her tail, right? That's what we're looking for. And that's how we harness them.
So now I'm going to show you how the belly band works. This harness from Alpine Outfitters. Thank you. This harness from Alpine Outfitters has a built-in belly band. So kind of let me show you how that looks like on our Australian Shepherd here, Maya. So the same way Dan put the other harness on, I'm going to make a little hole right here. I'm going to slip it over her neck. Good girl, Maya. And then we just rotate it around.
Mia's so helpful.
We would pull the front piece, the neck piece here nice and low, make sure it's clear of her collar, make sure all of her hair's out of the way. Flip these leg pieces out, and I'm going to ask her to step through. Good girl. Good girl. All right, and I'm going to pull this back a little bit. Can you go stand up for me, sweetie? Stand up. Stand up. Thank you. And now we have the belly band here, and you see there's little tabs here on the side where the belly band loops through. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the belly band, I'm going to wrap it underneath her, and I'm going to feed it through the tab here on the other side. So there's a little tab right here in the fabric. I'm going to take this belly band, I'm just going to feed it right here through that loop there, and I'm going to take it, meet them underneath, and clip it together right here. So now the belly band is connected. We pull the harness nice and tight, make sure there's no snags, make sure there's no lines twisted. And this way, if she tries to back out of it, go and turn around, thank you. If I pull the harness up like this, there's no way that it's going to come off with that belly band. And then it stretches right back out once she starts pulling. And I think she's ready to go, so we're going to let her go get her crazies out.
Like Paul was talking about with the belly band, there's a way to do this if we don't have one built in. With these standard ready to ships, they don't always have a belly band, so it's really easy for these things to slip and get weird, right, without wearing the belly band. I recommend, and I always run my dogs with one, what I do is I take just a standard neckline, right? Nothing fancy about this, it just has a clip on both sides. It's like approximately 6 to 8 inches long. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find the section that's right in the middle. I'm gonna hook it around one time. I'm gonna go under their belly. I'm gonna find the identical spot on the opposite side. Hi, baby. So same spot right here. Goes through the hole, pull it underneath, just like the other one. And then all I like to do is I come up and re-clip. There it is. And then, just like Paul demonstrated, once it's on, if the dog's trying to walk backwards or it's scared, it can't pull the harness off its head. So this just secures the dog so that even if they're nervous or scared, maybe it's their first time, they're safely in the harness, they're not gonna escape. So, hooking the dog up. I'm gonna start with a single dog line because I'm choosing one dog at the time. I like to take the line, hook it to the dog, right? It's kind of like an extended leash right now. When you have one dog, this is the way I do it. All I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna wrap this through, hook it to the bike, and we are ready to go. All I would do is I would pick up the bike, and we'd be ready.
So let's talk about some of the basic commands that you're going to want to familiarize yourself and your dog with while you're out there on the trail.
We can't tell you enough about how important it is to have good communication with your dogs, right? They're further out ahead of you and they're on a rope, which means they can go left, right, they can stop, they can do all kinds of sporadic things without you knowing what's going on. If you can communicate with your dog, it's going to add a huge safety level. The other major advantage is when you're going, let's say a road goes left or it goes right. Your dog's not going to know where to go, and it's just going to randomly do crazy things. If you can communicate with your dog, we can reassure the dog which way we're going, and it's going to have a better sense of understanding and faith in you. And then as a team, you'll both work together with this built communication you have with each other.
Definitely, and I think communicating with the dog starts with when you hook them up to the bike. At least our dogs tend to get really excited once they get their harnesses on, because they love running. They know they're getting ready to go for a run. So we get their harnesses on, we kind of let them get some of their excitement out. And then when we hook them up to the bike, they kind of know it's game time, right? So what we're going to do is we're ask them to calm down. I like to ask mine to sit and stay. Or at least stay, because I don't want them running around while I'm trying to get on the bike. I don't need them taking off while I've got my leg halfway over the bike. So the biggest thing is sit and or stay, so they kind of stay stationary while we're getting comfortable, ready to go. We like to give them a preparatory command, so they know what's getting ready to happen. So once we're all situated on the bike, we're comfortable and we're ready, we like to give them the command ready. And ready just lets them know, like, okay, we're getting ready to go soon, but we don't want you to go quite yet. So we always use the command ready. And then to get them to take off, there's a couple different commands depending on what kind of language you prefer to use. We use go as our language, and Dan uses hike with his dogs. So go or hike means, okay, game on, like start pulling and we're gonna get going down the trail. Once we're moving down the trail, then we need to do a couple things. We might need to turn the dogs one way or the other, or we might need to pass something. So for turning, we will use left or haw is the other turn, and then either right or G. And that's to get them to turn. Always pick one language that your dog is familiar with and stick with that. For our dogs, we use go, left and right. Dan prefers hike, haw, and G for his dogs. And that does a couple things for us. If we're running with him and he gives his dogs a command, his dogs are going to listen to him and they're going to follow the words that they're familiar with, and our dogs are going to listen to us and follow the words they're familiar with. You might always encounter something on a trail. There might be critters running off, there might be other dogs, there might be other pedestrians, right? And we want to be cognizant of those things. We don't want our dogs interrupting anybody else who might be out on these trails. So we'll use either on by or leave it. Are the two kind of terms that our dogs know that whatever they're looking at, and normally they'll give you like a prep, you'll get a clue, right? The dog's head will kind of turn, their ears will perk up, and we're always watching the dogs. And when we see them kind of perk up because they see something that piques their interest, we'll give them an on by or a leave it. And that means whatever you're looking at it, forget about it and keep going down the trail.
Another great command to be familiar with your dogs is easy, right? It's not necessarily the word, but how you say it. We want to say easy. We're kind of easing into the word as well. It's a good command just to help your dogs learn we need to slow down. Whether one of your dogs on the team, maybe they're limping or something's wrong and we need to go a little slower. Maybe you're going down a hill and it's kind of rocky and it's kind of scary on your bike. Just having the command to have them not necessarily stop, but slow down, and just easy girls, or boys, I guess, depending on your dog. But a command to just let them know, I want to slow down, I want to keep going, but I want to go slower. So easy is the command we use on that. And then by far the most important one, just like on your bike with brakes, whoa, right? You want a long drawn out whoa. That means stop, right? As soon as you hit the brakes, and your dogs have done this more than once or twice, they're automatically going to feel that extra tension and start slowing down to a stop. But it's a courtesy to your dog to say whoa, right? Just to let them know, okay, I'm coming to a stop. So when you guys are ready, we're all coming together to do it at the same time, right? Just letting them know they don't need to keep pulling like they've hit resistance like on a hill, but we actually want to stop. So it's a courtesy as well as a reminder to the dogs. Whoa is going to mean stop, and stopping's super valuable for your own safety.
I think you hit on a key thing there. It's not only the word or the language, but it's how you say it. Right? So if we're doing a go or a hike, there's going to be a lot of excitement in it. Go, hike. And we try to get the dogs really amped up kind of with how we use our voice. With on-bys or leave-its, I always put a little more tone in the voice. On-by. Because yes. I want them to know that I'm not asking them. This is a command that you're going to go, you're going to leave whatever, you're going to go right on by. Easy, definitely. Easy. And then how much I want them to scale that easy is how much it's okay, easy, or easy. Like I really need you to slow down on this one. And so that's a great point you bring up. So again, just to kind of recap your basic commands, you got sit, stay, right? We're not ready to go. Ready is get ready. Go or hike is actually take off. And then we're going to use left or ha, right or G to turn the dogs. On by or leave it is to just stay on trail, keep moving. And then we have easy to get them to slow down, and then whoa to get them to stop, and we're going to come to a dead stop, and we're going to wait until we get another command. And those are the basics of commands for bikejoring. So now that your dog's ready to go, they got their harness on, they're clipped up to the bike, you got your bike outfitted, ready to go. You're really ready to hit the road. We want to talk about some of the stuff that you should take with you. And it can be very minimal depending on if you're just going around the neighborhood. Dan took us out on a 25-mile trek last weekend, so we had a lot more stuff with us. And it really depends on where you're going, what options you're going to have available to you, how long you're going to be gone, and what kind of obstacles you might run into. So we'll kind of start with the basics here and then work our way down to the more optional, nice-to-have stuff that might also become requirements if you're way out in the backwoods. First and foremost, water and nutrition for your dogs. Even if you're only going out there for 2 or 3 miles, if it's hot out, if the ground's hot, your dogs are going to definitely overheat sooner than you might think, especially if they're running hard and they're pulling. And when you see them out there, how excited they get, how hard they want to pull and how hard they want to run. They can definitely work up a good sweat and need some water. So first and foremost, definitely water. Take water for your dogs. So we've got these little flexible water bottles. These work really well just to fill them up, throw them in your backpack, and they shrink down after you've taken the water out of them. You can always just take your favorite water bottle. Definitely a water bottle on the bike. We always have a water bottle on our bike because you need to make sure that you have water too. And then something to give the dogs water in. So you've got these nice fabric bowls that collapse up really tight so you can just cram these away in your backpack. Or these rubber options for collapsible bowls that will fold down flat, and then you pop them out if you need to put water in them. Whatever situation, whatever equipment works best for you, doesn't matter as long as you have water out there for the dogs and water for you. We always take care of the dogs first and foremost. We always like to take some sort of nutrition as well for the dogs. So you can find all sorts of companies out there that make these little power bars, little snacks. I like these individually wrapped ones because I can just buy them in bulk and I can throw them in the pantry and grab 2 or 3 and throw them in the backpack and get ready to hit the trail. Always make sure that you have a way to communicate. Even if you're out there with a big group, if something goes wrong, you might need to be able to call somebody to come help you. So we're always going to have our phones with us first and foremost. Sometimes you go places where you don't have cell phone reception. If that's the case, definitely look into GPS units. Some smaller GPS units you can mount on your bike, at least to help you find your way back to the trail. Another good option is a satellite communicator. If you have the ability to get one, if you know that you're and your dog are going to be going out where you don't have cell phone reception, it is always good to have a way to communicate back home. There are several companies out there. This is a little Garmin InReach Mini. Kind of one of my favorites because I have full GPS reception, I have satellite communication, I can send and receive messages. So if there is an emergency, I can send my wife a quick message on this and let her know where I'm at, my latitude, my longitude, to send help. Or worst case scenario, you can actually send out an SOS and get rescue services on their way to you to rescue you and your dog no matter where you are. So we kind of covered water, food, communications. Now we'll talk about some necessities, some safety things, right? So a first aid kit. This can be a small first aid kit with some antiseptic, some band-aids if you're not going very far. This is a larger first aid kit that Dan likes to carry with him because he does go quite a ways out sometimes. And you always want to be prepared. Same thing with being prepared is worrying about your bike. You don't want the bike to break down while you're out there. So I'd always recommend carrying a patch kit so you can repair a flat tire if you get it. Always carry a multi-tool because you never know what could break on your bike. You might have to fix something to get home. If you have the ability, it's also a good idea to maybe carry a spare inner tube, carry a tire inflator with you. And then just something that we like to take with us because we're always conscious about our neighbors. If we're going to be running through neighborhoods, if we're biking on sidewalks or around public areas, always carry poop bags. Look out for your community, look out for your friends who might be out there with their dogs, and please pick up after your own.
So when we get a little bit deeper, right? Maybe you're 15, 20 miles in. You've done several safe adventures already, so you don't want to do this on your first time. But as we get deeper, right, these are things you might want to bring, not necessarily required, but good idea, right? Right here we have a little Fido Pro Airlift. All it is it's a little sling. Let's say your dog's running along and it cuts its foot, right? Do you want your dog to have to walk all the way back? Do you want to carry it in your hands? The only advantage to this is it's literally your dog becomes your backpack and you can safely carry out your dog. Not required, but in my opinion, a great way to take my dog home just in case. I've never had to use it personally, but you never know. GoPro, right? Is it a real adventure if you're not recording it? Come on, you gotta bring your GoPro. We wanna see your videos. We wanna see your adventures. Dog food, right? When we did our 25-mile trip last time, we went halfway in, we took a break, as humans, we ate our lunch, we fed our dogs lunch, right? We took an hour break or so, we relaxed, we had fun, we just hung out, right? We enjoyed ourselves. Have dog food, re-nourish your dogs, let them run, and let them be free a little bit. Spare parts, carabiners, right? What if something breaks? You need to put it back together. What if you need to carry something extra? Carabiners are always helpful. Talking about the GoPro and all your communication devices, well, now I'm 5-6 hours in, maybe I need a battery recharge, right? Here's a great option. All I gotta do is plug it in. I can recharge a phone like 6 times with this little guy. Bear spray, right? Doesn't necessarily have to be bear spray, but something to be conscious of is you might be in the wilderness and there's gonna be wildlife, right? Whether you're in Alaska and you got moose, deer, bears in our case. You just need something to keep you and your dog safe, right? The last thing you want to do is go out and have something terrible happen. The whole reason we're doing this is because we love it and the dogs love it. And we're not going to love it if somebody gets mauled by a bear, right? So just an example. Those are things we want to keep. As it gets darker, right? Lights. This particular light is Paul's. It changes colors. Pretty awesome, right? You can put this on your dog's collar. So when they're in front of you doing whatever, you have a headlight, so you're watching your dogs. But let's say a line breaks and they run off. Okay, well, you can see in the dark where your dog is. Sometimes we're looking around, maybe we're checking out other things, or my light's looking somewhere else and someone's coming from another angle. It's nice to have the team visible for other people as well. So lights are super valuable.
Something we failed to bring out here, but along the line of lights, if you're going to be going out in the afternoon and there's a chance that you might get stuck out there and it's going to get dark, we always take headlamps with us. We always have headlights on the front of the bike as well as taillights on the back of the back of the bike. So definitely important. If there's a chance that you're going to be out there when it gets dark, it doesn't take up a whole lot of room in the bag. Put some headlamps, some bike lights in there, and some way to see to get yourself back to your vehicle.
Absolutely. One thing for the humans, right? Toilet paper. Some way to go to the bathroom. You never know, right? You might have to go. One Wipe Charlie's. Amazing. Hand sanitizer. Do you want to be the guy that doesn't wash? Just saying. Leashes and extra lines, right? Extra lines can be used as a leash, right? Just to tie your dog up when you're on a break or whatever. But the extra line is mainly just in case something breaks, right? We oftentimes carry extra lines, and we have extra neck lines. You can connect neck lines together to make a longer line. Just something that will allow you to safely get back where you and your dog are both able to get back with the equipment you have, and you don't have to rely on your dog running free because something broke, right? We want to make sure everybody gets home and everybody's having a good time.
Thank you for joining us today. Hopefully you learned some things about the basics. I mean, there's infinite levels, I think, that you can really get into bikejoring. The main point is get out, have fun with your dog. Unfortunately, they're not with us, our entire lives, but they are with us for all of theirs. We want to give them as much as we can, give them as much satisfaction and fulfillment. There's really no better way to do that than just get out and explore the town, explore your neighborhood or your county or your country. And this is a great way to do it. It helps bleed off some of their energy. It's a lot of fun for us. There's really nothing better than when the dog's full up to speed and you're going down a trail and up on the mountain bike, just having fun and enjoying things. So hopefully these are some of the basics that'll get you out there, get you educated if this is something that you're looking into, something that you're interested in, and get out there and have fun.
Just a reminder, this is all about fun, right? One of the best things I ever heard is you can't push a rope. Make sure you're having fun, but most importantly, make sure your dog's having fun. A happy dog will always run, always, right? Just keep it fun, right? Can't push a rope, just saying.